Up, everybody? It's March 5th, Sunday, 2023. I'd like to review the previous week and then kind of dive into this upcoming week. So a pre-week analysis and previous week analysis. I do want to explain that I did not engage in this trade due to the fact that I expended my mental capital, meaning I engaged into the market too soon and kind of, just tired and stressed myself out before actually waiting for the setup to form. So, yeah. And basically, I don't really trade London, but that is going to start changing due to the fact how much data and setups that I've personally been seeing, and I like the data that has been delivered. So yeah, we'll get right into it. I do want to explain that I am a 4 hour trader. I like the 4 and 1 hour a lot more. It's one of my favorite time frames. I tend to stick to higher time frames and try to catch the weekly range expansion. So yeah, we'll get right into it. So basically, last week I was viewing this daily order block, and in this daily order block, I will outline it and I will show you my markup from last week. But in this daily order block, I liked how this candle was inefficient, and how we already had a consequent encroachment on this wick right here and rebalanced this price. But this price was unbalanced at the beginning of the week up until about Thursday. So yeah, I'd like to go over that and kind of explain my psychology behind what I saw. So we'll get right into it. So this daily order block that I saw was these three down close candles right here. I tend to mark it out body to body, because that's more relevant to me personally, especially on a higher time frame, But I will account for a consequent encroachment on these wicks, right? But I do like to see in order blocks specifically the bodies to hold. So last week, we had a daily order block, right? And but something that stuck out to me is how aggressively we traded to the downside and redistributed with no, with no remorse really. It just kept going, and then it chopped throughout the week. But price action, the cleanest, highest probability setup to me personally, in my perspective, was Thursday and Friday. We created a market maker buy model and a Judas swing in London. So yeah, we'll get right into it. I also did see a power of three on the weekly, and I'll be going over all of that and explaining my thought process and all that. But I would like to get into this daily order block. So with that being said, we had this daily order block, right? And something that really stuck out to me was the consequent encroachment of this last down close candle before the up move. And something that validated this order block to me was this candle right here and how we broke these highs and closed above it, right? So that to me is a valid order block, bullish, right? So that in my perspective was a very high probability setup. And I'm going to mark out this consequent encroachment of this candle right here. So this was the consequent encroachment of that daily order block of the last down close candle, right? So consequent encroachment. I'll put that in the middle. Boom, make that red. So consequent encroachment of that last down close candle, and we fully not mitigated, but we fully rebalanced this candle right here, right? And something that I noticed was this swing high that got broken. I was aiming for the equal highs, and I'll get into that. Kind of getting ahead of myself. So yeah, basically we redistributed from market open, right? So Sunday, we opened up, and it was just a very weak open, and just immediately started redistributing, right? And these big candles, just luring every retail seller in to the market, inducing everybody. There was some pretty all right setups, but for the most part, I was highly anticipating buys come Wednesday, and yeah, I expended my mental capital, and I did regret it, but we can't cry over spilled milk. It's not a misplay, as there's plenty of different plays that will form. So basically on this 4 hour, and also when I'm viewing the 4 hour, my 4 hour plays tend to create in 3 days. So they tend to build up and form in 3 days for the 4 hour weekly expansion. So that's something that I like to see. That's not something that always happens, but 3 days for a 4 hour play is pretty key for me. That's just something that I've gathered from my personal data. Um, but yeah, let me know your feedback on this video as well. I'd love to hear your guys' thoughts and opinions. So yeah, basically, you could have viewed this as a BISI as well. So a fair value gap inside of a daily order block, right? Something that I like to see. So we redistributed all week just to accumulate longs, right? So we redistributed and accumulated, and then we had our weekly expansion on Thursday and Friday. So something that I love to see is that weekly expansion happening, later in the week. I also like to see the typical Wednesday or Tuesday high or low created of the week. And it kind of threw me off last week how we didn't do it on Wednesday or Tuesday. Um, but that was just due to news, I feel like. And so, yeah, basically, I saw this. I also was viewing this. Um, I was also viewing this power of three off of the weekly, right? So, how we opened up right here, you know, came down and manipulated people in, and then we had our expansion, right? So, we expanded, took out this previous week low and close, right? So our previous week close was right here, and our previous week low was right here, right? Previous week close, open, high, low, right? So we rated this previous week low into this daily OB, right? And something that I noticed was a Judas swing in London session. So boom, we'll come to London from Friday. I'm going to scoot over this annotation of this order block for now. And I'll show you these two indicators that I personally like to use. It makes it quick to see, and you know, I love using these. It's very clean, and it marks out the consequent encroachment of the Asian session. So Asia session, high low midlines. Um, One of my favorites. So off of that, you know how we opened up in Asia session. We didn't you know, how we delivered, it was just a large Asia range, right? A large Asia range, you know, about, I mean, 40, about 37 handles. Let's see exactly. So 37 and a quarter handles. Usually, Asia Session delivers about an average of 25 or 20 handles, right? So that is very key to know how tight and how wide the ranges can open up. Um, and that's why we actually got a low resistance liquidity run in London session, right? Or sorry, not a low resistance. It was a high resistance liquidity run in London, and then as soon as New York opened up, it was a low resistance liquidity run. So we had a Judas form, and let me box out this Asia session, right, and get rid of these indicators. So, right, Asia session, you know, we created a nice range, and then we created a nice Judas via London, right? So, what do I mean by that? Well, we came and we didn't trade up into the consequent encroachment of this Asia range, which told me that we were going to raid the lows of Asia session. So once we rated these lows, you could be anticipating these higher prices, right? Due to the fact how we aggressively traded all week and redistributed, it was a tough week. I'm not gonna lie, it was a tough week. First few days of the month or last week of the month and the last couple or first couple days of the new month. So basically, you know, we rated these Asia lows, and something that I've noticed is if we're truly bearish, we will hold this consequent encroachment of the Asia range. Now, when we got to here, I noticed that we had multiple OBs form. And as it wasn't very, you know, high probability, it was definitely a turtle soup. So we just slowly accumulated and kept breaking structure on a lower time frame. And actually gave quite a few entries, you know, but patience is very, very required for these entries, especially if you know what you're looking for. Um, so yeah, last down close candle, you know, consequent encroachment of that traded into, and notice how this daily order block, consequent encroachment, last down close candle. Notice how we started trading above that and getting above that price. Every single time we came and tapped into it, it kept running, breaking structure, breaking structure, breaking structure. So you definitely could have got into this low risk buy right here, right? A nice FVG that formed after, you know, a lower time frame structure break. So yeah, that's something that I do look for is an FVG on a lower time frame, especially on a higher time frame PD array. Again, my setups tend to form in 3 days, 4 hour time frame. So that is basically what I eat off, and I like to see the weekly expansion happen. So, you know, low risk buy, basically, you know, it was very clean. It was very clean. I mean, the way it delivered, it was high resistance, but if you were patient, you definitely would have got what you wanted. Um, it was pretty low risk as well. And, you know, after this structure break, it was just kind of like it made more sense because we had a breaker and it formed perfectly to me. So, with that being said, um, yeah, I would like to go over. Let's see. So let's see. These equal highs I would have targeted. It stuck out to me pretty heavily right here. And how we had, this basically um this big SIBI, sell side imbalance, buy side inefficiency, you know, form right here, and how we basically, had these equal highs. You could have been targeting that for sure. And also, what I noticed was this trend line liquidity. Um, I like to look at trend lines just to cannibalize that and see kind of where retail's head is at. So now that I've gone through that on a naked chart, I would like to step into my old markup, um, and kind of just break down what I really liked last week. So basically, on this weekly, we had this weekly raid, right? This is previous week low from uh, March or February 4th, 2023, and that is technically a Judas swing on the weekly. So with that being said, we rated the close and the low. So with that, now I would tend to be targeting this previous week open right here, previous week open right here, and the previous week high, right? Now, why would I be aiming for that? Well, because we already rated this previous week low and this previous week close. So with that being said, we opened up, um and we had our weekly open right at the close and took out the close. So with that, I would like to see if these previous week lows and previous week closes can hold. Um, and this previous week open, I'd like to see it hold as well, right? We took some pretty significant highs, and coming into this week, we did just create a new week opening gap, right? So, new week opening gap, right? We have this, and these are the areas that I'm specifically looking for. I would like to see this fair value gap, um, basically kind of get rebalanced, or I'm viewing in this area. And why this area? Well, because this significant high got broken, right? These highs got broken, and I want to see if we can act as some kind of support in this previous SIBI, right? Because we overturned this SIBI, and the fourth quadrant has already been traded into and closed into. So I would like to see some kind of support to push off into some of these levels, into this previous week open, previous week high from uh what is that? February 20th. So I would love to see that, right? And we also got new day opening gaps, new week opening gaps, and this to me is more of a breaker block, right? On a higher time frame perspective. So I would like to see if we can create some kind of framework in this area, or any of these areas are valid to me, but we have to create the low of the week in order to do that. So if we start to create the high of the week, then I'm more so looking for sells in this area. If we create the low of the week, then I would try to be anticipating some kind of support to be created in these areas, especially this previous week high, previous week open, and this new week opening gap, this previous new week opening gap. So yeah, that's definitely something that I'm looking at, but I'm not going to turn a blind eye to these areas of liquidity. They looked very clean to me, and I mean, smooth edges got to get turned jagged, right? So I would love to see what we can do up in this area. If we create the low of the week in these areas, these are the PD arrays that I'm specifically looking for, and I will be trying to look for some sort of framework to get created into these areas. Again, be aware of the news this week. We have some very significant news as we are in NFP. Um, right? So, with that being said, we got Fed Chairman Powell speaking on Tuesday at 10, 30 minutes after New York open time. Or 30 minutes after New York open time. So, just beware. As ICT says, wait 30 to an hour. Don't get caught in this gambler's field. I'm telling you, you will regret it. And then also, you got to be aware of this red folder at 8:15. That could also give some kind of nice play. Um, right? So these are the things that I'm specifically looking for. Um, we also have, let's see, Fed Chair Powell testifies. Fed Chair Powell testifies. So again, we got him speaking again on Wednesday, um, at 10 a.m. 30 minutes past New York open time at Stock Exchange Open. So just beware, and I would definitely recommend marking out this new week opening gap. If we can create some kind of support over this, then we may expand in up into this area and create that weekly high. Um, to me, I feel like we are going to create the low first. But it's just if then statements. I'm sitting on my hands and waiting for the data to print. I'm not coming into the week with a specific bias just due to the fact it's NFP. But I also am looking and I'm seeing that this weekly high could get traded into first. So I'm not turning a blind eye into that. But I would love to see these areas get traded into. So yeah, and do not neglect the dollar. We have been trading off of this consequent encroachment for quite a long time now. So I would love to see what kind of price action we get on dollar. And obviously we last week we it was a choppy week, but if you follow the days, it makes a lot of sense why we did what we did, right? We sold off pretty heavily on Friday, um, and kind of gave kind of the same scenario, but in a different way, right? And it's just it correlates opposite, right? So refer to the dollar. Dollar is daddy, definitely. So you gotta watch the dollar. We could definitely expand higher on the dollar, but I'm kind of just waiting to see which way we're gonna break out of this consolidation um first, and then seeing what kind of confluence we can get with that. So, last week, very clean week on Nasdaq as well. So yeah, it was a very clean week last week. Wednesday or Friday and Thursday, and so yeah, I would love to get some kind of these areas traded into, and I'm just speculating until you know basically Powell speaks, and I want to see what he says. Not necessarily to base my analysis, but I like to pick apart what he says and how these markets react to it. especially how we close. So I hope this video was insightful, and please let me know if you enjoyed it and give me some kind of feedback. Thank you.